I will send the tweet out. And you can tell the guild if you want to.
I will.
And I made sure to fill up my drink first this time, so I don't have to do that.
Oh, I need to mute my phone.
There you go.
Wait, no, it's muted. My alarm just bypasses mute. That's right.
Yep.
That was the 6:40 was the. Oh no, that was for the original podcast time. That's why. I was like 6:40. I would have been late.
Well, at least we know you're on top of being late. Like, if you're not there yet,
Then you probably should get there quickly. All right. Sounds look good on the stream. Let's go ahead and just get started.
Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather. A copper cup of coffee in a copper coffee cup.
Me. All right.
Exactly.
Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic, TBC Classic, and its community. I am Bobby, also known as BlazzinBob, and today we are joined by Mel, aka Melarina. Glad you made it back to us after disappearing last week.
you're welcome. I'm here, hopefully for the whole time.
It remains to be seen. And we are also joined by Ryan, aka CognitivePit, also known as Yip. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling like there might be some favoritism. I've yet to be allowed to take a nap on the podcast. And
Well.
I can't help but feel like there might be some kind of favoritism going on here, but that's
Yep.
okay.
That was an interesting one. That was a first for Warcraft Reloaded and a first for me in podcasting history. I don't think, we've lost connection
happy
with
to help.
people, but someone falling asleep during, we must have been
So,
really boring, right?
Really long week. It was a really long week. Nope.
It was.
I mean, you gotta sympathize, I feel like it kind of just like sold home what Mel puts herself through to come on the podcast every week and do this with us. She's usually the one coming right home, straight
Oh,
on to
yeah.
here, so everyone can appreciate her. And
I know Bob asked me if we could start 30 minutes early today, and I looked at him and I was like, didn't I just ask if we could start later every week? Didn't we just have this conversation?
Yeah, we had to go a little bit earlier because the guys at Dropping Spicy, the Apex Legends podcast on the MASH network, is doing a community tournament tonight, and they're going to be doing that right after the show. So anybody tuning in live can check that out. But yeah, it was pretty funny with her falling asleep. She woke up at like 11 something at night, and I was playing Assassin's Creed on the Xbox, and she was like, "What are you doing up?" And then she walked by, and then I come into the room. I'm like just smiling at her, and she's like, "What?" She's half asleep, and I'm like, "It was a pretty good podcast tonight, right?" She like gets silent. She like looks around, and then she like, you can see it on her face. She goes, "Oh, I fell asleep during the podcast, didn't I?"
Yeah, I feel like Bob like sped that up by like an hour before I really like actually understood what happened. But I just remember Bob starting a news piece, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I came back and I looked at my bed and I was like, I'm just gonna like lay down just for a second. I'm just so tired. And then it was just like lights out, no coming back. Like I think I woke up and like my hat was on, my headphones were still in, and like I was so confused. I was like, what happened?
It was pretty funny.
Oh God.
Oh, all right. Well, we have a good show coming to you tonight. We're gonna go over some emails. We had no new reviews, but then we're gonna hit news. There's no TBC news, but there is Season of Mastery news. Oh, I missed it. We're gonna do raid progression and what we've been doing prior to the news, and then if we have time, depending on, because we have to get off at a certain time for the Dropping Spicy Apex Legends tournament, so we're going to try to get to discussion, and I'll just leave the discussion as a surprise just in case we don't get to it. So, with that being said, I'd like to remind everybody we stream on Twitch live every Friday night, almost every Friday night, and that's at twitch.tv/mash those buttons. Let's move into emails.
Yeah, so we had a couple of emails. A couple we had to delay just because we were reading so many of them. But we always appreciate your emails. The first one, quick question or just question slash advice from you guys. Going to keep this potentially long story short. Edit, I failed. Yet I'm still going to read it all. Me and my wife joined a guild a few months ago and only recently started running one of the times the guild runs Kara weekly. All has gone well. I am a bear tank. Thanks, yep. Runs are smooth and everyone has a good time. Well, we recently joined in on a Growl Mag raid group since it was scheduled in the guild Discord, and we didn't have to pray. We logged in at the right time to find a pug group in the LFG channel, which, yeah, I can imagine
Mm.
is tough. Much easier to join a sanctioned run. I've never had a problem in any pug groups for raids in TBC so far, probably just lucky. I cannot commit as much time as I'd like to, so I stick to running the last phase raids. No SSC or TK for me until phase 3. Well, I was kind of approached by an officer of the guild after raid as I signed up as a tank for Girl Mag, and we had like 6+ tanks, and several of them were part of the main progression team. So they kept them and told me to cat. Totally fine. Only apparently I needed to be full ADPS geared in order to keep coming to Grow Mag since my numbers were so low, which of course I don't have time to gear 4 full sets for all druid specs, hence just keeping the older, easier raids and having a bear set and a healer set, but preferably playing bear. This is super frustrating. At first, I know I'm a pretty good tank, and that is my primary spec. So I would imagine if I'm asked to cat my DPS shouldn't matter much. Second, like, it's Growl Mag. I was clearing this every other week or so with random pug groups and have only wiped maybe once or twice on either. I enjoy several people in the guild, and the raids are quite organized. And in a first come, first serve sign up on Discord, and that is really convenient. I guess my main question, should I potentially look for a new guild, or will this just be a consistent issue? I don't need a hardcore guild, but also enjoy being able to clear things without a ton of wipes. Thoughts on this matter? So here's the gist. If you couldn't keep up with my droning, no. um, the gist here is that there's too many tanks in this guild, which unfortunately is
How
just
many tanks do you
the
need for Girl Mag? I thought we used
It's
3,
three. We
right?
yeah,
use
it's a
three.
product of Kara is the problem.
It's a product of Kara, and that's the problem. A lot of people, there's a lot of tanks that got made ready to tank, and like we had the same thing. One of the people who consistently tanked our Kara, we knew ahead of time was one of our resto druids. We just
Mhm.
geared him feral for the first phase while he picked up resto gear, and now he's just full resto that we just do 25 mans.
And then
Um,
one of our poor warrior tanks
yeah,
had to like
Rerolled
just
Shaman.
re-rolled shaman healer just to get into the 25 man.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to talk about this, but tanking is actually probably one of the harder things to get into a guild for because you don't need many. And if you have
Yeah,
an established guild, then you already have tanks. Like, you can't really have a guild without tanks. You can pug
right.
anything else or bring in people who are flip flopping, but for a solid guild to be consistent, you need like 2 consistent tanks. So it's always kind of like an uphill battle. Honestly, if you really want to tank, you're I don't want to say you should pug. It's tough because you only want to do the last tier of content. Um, the thing with
Right.
tanks is people want to gear up people to tank who are then going to use that gear to then like progress them further. So I think like everyone is kind of in the right here, right? Our guild would probably approach this situation similarly. A lot of our tanks had to re-roll. And I mean, our feral, even just this week, had to cat on more pulls than we normally do because we run a prot warrior, prot paladin, and a bear druid. Well, the prot paladin can't do anything when he's not tanking. So it just makes more sense for the bear to go cat and do DPS. Now,
Right.
whether I think the point of contention here is whether or not you need to be doing well in cat form in your current guild. That is the only place that I think that your guild is letting you down. That you're someone who isn't playing at the highest level, which is okay. You want to be a tank, but they're making you cat and then telling you you're not doing cat good enough. But that's coming from them. So that's kind of ridiculous. I'd be pretty upset about that personally. It might be that finding a new guild is best if they're not going to be okay with you doing poor DPS. But honestly, if you want to tank, it sounds like you probably need a different guild anyway. Whether you're going to pug them, you probably have a better chance pugging and tanking. But if you really want to tank, a guild with 6 tanks is not the place you're going to be able to get any tank time in.
And I'll add on to that with even our like main tank druid has a full DPS set, and it's just something you should be getting the gear that the rogues don't need, or the DPS melee don't need it. There's not a ton of melee in raids, so you should be able to get that gear fairly easy. Another thing you might look into is the feral rotation isn't as straightforward as like some might think. Like there's a lot that goes into it with different bleeds and stuff. I don't know it, but I've been told by many actual
It's
feral DPS that it's more intricate than you would think.
it's difficult because you have like management and your power shifting is like the biggest problem. Is that it's It was a learning curve for me because at first, when I first started playing Feral, I didn't understand how they worked. I
Mm.
tried to kill stuff while I was questing on my boosted druid, and I was like, "Are druids just awful? I'm so confused. I bought all this of the bandit gear. What am I doing wrong?" And then it was once I finally understood why power shifting is insane. You obviously need to have the wolf's head helmet. I'm assuming you have that. If you don't, then you just will never DPS well. And then you need to have the furrer uh, talent, and both of those give you energy when you shift into cat form. So what cats
Mm.
do is you spend all your energy like a rogue, you shift, and you have a full bar of energy again to keep DPSing. Now, if there's a wisdom on the boss, shifting takes mana, but a wisdom on the boss means you'll actually have a decent amount of mana the whole time to keep doing this consistently throughout a fight. So a longer fight like Mag, you're not just going to be like in a minute. I think that gear is important, but likely if you worked on your rotation as a cat, you'd probably be able to perform to the level that they want. But at the same time, you don't want to be a cat. So
Right.
does that
Yeah.
really solve the problem at the end of the day? Bears are kind of expected to cat, but because you're doing the last tier of content, I don't think that's like a major expectation. I don't think it's something that needs to be required of you. And if you need to find a better place to tank, I mean, honestly, no one who has left this guild, of my guild, that like no one who left just looking for a better place to play. I've never like no one holds a grudge against people like that. You want to be a tank,
Yeah.
and like I know you like several people in the guild. That's great. They can still be your friends, and no one's gonna blame you if you just need to find a better place that you're gonna have fun. There's really no point in not doing what you want to do when it's just a game at the end of the day. You should
Yeah.
find a place that you can do what you want to do. But if you're only doing last year content, honestly, I know you don't have a lot of time, but organizing your own like pug Discord could be a good way to do it where that way you're the one who's the consistent person. If you want to tank, being that leader position is the best way to kind of get into that role. If you're the guy who main tanks because you're the one who set it up, you can always be that main tank and there's nothing anyone can say.
But
It
see,
is a
I
lot
feel
more
like
work though.
there's
Yeah.
also an opportunity here, right? Where I think you guys are overlooking because he only wants to do the last tier content. Most of our tanks, at least, are geared through the last tier's content, right? And so I think getting into another, guild that's doing well, that has some people that still want to do the last tier content or new players coming up that want that last tier content, but don't have tanks that want to do that last tier content. I think there is an opportunity there where you could find a guild that you could say, "Hey, I just want to do the last tier content. I don't expect to be in your main raids." And
Yep.
they could say, "That's amazing. We've got a bear druid tank who wants to help or other people who want to do the last tier content continue to do that." So I do think that if your guild doesn't have that or doesn't want to allow you to be that and still come to Girl Mag as a, you know, tank cat, then I do think there's opportunities out there.
Yeah, I guess the big question is like, why is your guild taking Girl Mag so seriously? Like, if someone
Right.
else came in who was in my guild and was like, I really want to tank Girl Mag, I'd be like, please, get
Hallelujah.
me Yeah, like, I would
Hallelujah.
love to leave raid early and not go to Girl Mag. Who needs anything other than, like, the few who need, like, DST? Your main
Right.
progression raiders should not need gear. If they're tanks, they should really not be needing gear from these bosses. So the fact
Right.
that they are, like, unwilling to kind of slot you in is something that I think a lot of other guilds would be willing to do. Like, our
Mhm.
shaman who rerolled, he brings his warrior to Girl Mag now. He doesn't need anything on his shaman. And if, like, your guild's unwilling to do that, I don't know. We go in with 18 sometimes and do these 2 raids. I feel like they should allow a cat that doesn't do a lot of DPS or a tank who maybe isn't your best geared tank should be able to get some experience in there. It's better for the guild if they're like training you up as a backup almost, you know. So
Right.
if they're losing that opportunity, that's like on them as well.
Yep. And like, I just go on my main, even though I haven't needed anything for a long time. I could go on BlazzinBob, but I'm not going to take DST from a main raider. You know what I mean? I'm just not going to do it. So why not just bring the big DPS instead of bringing the, respecking my PvP character?
But if some zero gear warlock was like, I want to go, we would be like, Bob, go play Assassin's Creed. Go,
Yep. Yep.
Right.
go watch YouTube. We'll bring this guy and he
Or
needs
just take
gear.
one of the 6 empty spots that we have, sure. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
care
we're
what you do.
taking an empty spot. It really doesn't matter. So yeah, the uniqueness is that you want to do the last tier of content, and you should be able to find a place that makes you happier than you are now.
Yeah.
And hopefully, this was a couple weeks ago you mailed in. I'd love to hear an update at some point if you do make a change, and we'll see where you end up. But thank you for your email and your question. I'm sure, especially as guilds are kind of breaking apart and coming together over this like tumultuous TBC, like I'm sure
Over
there's a
these
lot of
uncertain
opportunities.
times.
Yeah, over these uncertain times of guilds. I'm sure that there's like a lot of opportunity to move somewhere that you'd be happy. Well, we have one more email. This one is more up my alley and something I can understand.
I thought so.
Wow, Iron Man RuneScape style. Hello, my name is John, and I already kind of do an Iron Man for WoW that's RuneScape-esque with a personal server that I run for myself. You can edit the .conf file, which is just a fancy .ini file of course, to be able to learn all of the professions. You would still just have to do all the grinding to level them up. There are server mods using scripts that let you have a classless system, including changing racials and drop items on death that despawn after a certain amount of time. Since it's your own local server, you'll be playing alone and the age will be empty, so that part's taken care of. The only thing you don't have is the hardcore status like in RuneScape. But by RuneScape rules, every hardcore Iron Man is just an Iron Man that hasn't died yet. On death, you just revert back to regular Iron Man. Love the podcast. It's the first WoW podcast that I've listened to and enjoyed since the legendary thread back in the day. Keep up the good work. I feel like a horrible person. I want to answer this other question, but I totally answered that other person and didn't read their last part of their email, which is shout, shout out to you guys. And Bob can edit this to make me sound smart, like I didn't make this mistake. Shout out to you guys. 5 stars. You all rock and make an absolutely fantastic show. Keep it up. Looking forward to hearing about your KT progression for the Horde server ATS. Thank you so much for that first email. So the question with this interesting Iron Man style that you have going on, I think that's really cool. So it sounds like they're taking some of these. We talked before about some of these private servers that are doing like classless systems or like really wacky things. It sounds really similar to that, but they're playing alone because they want to play an Iron Man. So why not just host your own personal server? My only stipulation, and maybe this is like because of my own vanity, but part of being an Iron Man or being a hardcore Iron Man where you haven't died is like the prestige of walking around and showing it off to everyone else. The fact that you're in an
Yeah.
environment with, like, I know you're playing solo is fun, but without letting other people know you're playing solo, then like, what's the point? There's a meme in the RuneScape community called it's like I'm an Iron Man, by the way, where like they're the kind of people who will always tell you that I'm an Iron Man. Like I got all this stuff on my own, so it's kind of like that. where like you want everyone to know what you did because you're sort of like showing off. I think for the play style, that sounds really fun, but it's missing that for me. But that sounds really awesome. I like all these sort of like really out there, like let's break down WoW and rebuild it. These systems seem fun.
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, I think like I would want that too, but yeah, everybody's like it's just like me who, like was in Star Wars Galaxies and be like, I'm a Jedi, right? You
Yeah,
know.
it's like that's a yeah, and it's like as much as I meme on Bob, I'd be doing the same thing. It's like that's the you have this like prestigious like thing that you want to share with other people. And I mean, I think that's a big reason why, like in RuneScape, you can tell if they're Iron Man right away when they talk. You can tell if they haven't died yet. All these things are like visual for other people to see.
Yeah,
Yep.
I guess it just depends what you're looking for, right? Maybe they just want to stream and show off this part of the game, or maybe
Mhm.
they just want to play it by themselves and that's enough for them. But
Like I said, I'm super vain. That's like a really important part. Like if I play like a single player game, I almost feel guilty because I'm not making any like progress that anyone else would care about. I have trouble just like having fun on my own because I'm like, there's no stakes here. I'm just wasting. I don't want to say wasting time because I'm projecting onto you. That's like my internalized like I feel that way sometimes. So if I can't at least show off to other people,
what's the
I
point?
worry.
Yep. Well, and even in like single player games, like, you can look at my profile like friends can and see that, all the achievements that I've done in different games and stuff. But still, I play single player games for different reasons than I play.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that I would enjoy World of Warcraft single player, but I've never tried it, so I can't know for sure, but I just assume that I wouldn't because the beauty of it for me is the other people. That's why I always try to go to like the most populated servers. That's why I'm a little scared with our server at the moment.
I remember in actual TBC, I believe that's when The Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out, or at least that's when I was playing it the most. And I'm pretty sure it's TBC. I put in like hundreds of hours into Oblivion. That game was incredible, and when I was done with it, I remember feeling like, why didn't I put all that time into WoW? Like I have nothing to show for all that time I just put into Oblivion. I start playing WoW again, and I'm like, I could be rich right now if I just did daily quests for that amount of time.
But could you dupe in WoW like you
Nope.
could dupe in Oblivion? Like you can
Oh,
break the Xbox in Oblivion by just duping like 1,000 things.
yeah, so it's like I had an amazing time playing Oblivion, but then something in my brain, I'm just like, I didn't. There's like nothing. There's no like physical. I want my little badge I get to show off.
All right, well, what have you guys been doing in WoW lately?
Doing some
Well,
arena.
I have not been doing arena. I gave up on arena, but I raided, and then we did spend a little bit of time on our new characters. I made a hunter, which is funny. Um, but I have this cute little cat right now,
The
so
best
that's fun.
was she first went out and she's like, Bob, I'm doing auto shoot. It's not doing anything. And I came in there. She pulled up
Okay.
her character profile. And I was like, well, you need ammo. She goes, I have ammo. I was like, well, you need to put it in the ammo spot in your
See,
That
that's
character
okay.
just
profile.
stupid.
Oh no, you know what? I'll be honest. That the first time I had to shoot something on my warrior, I was like, I had the ammo. I was like, oh, you need to put
Right.
it in the paper doll slot. I'm like, what are you even talking about? I gotta put it in the what in the what? I
Right?
get it. I'm with you,
Yeah.
Mel.
Thank you. I was like, I've got it in my bag. Like that's where it should be. I should be able to
And see,
shoot.
I totally thought she was just in the dead zone where she can't shoot. And I was like, you're probably in the dead zone. I come in there and she's like way far away. And I'm like, well, maybe you're not close enough. And she gets closer. I'm like, okay, well, you should be able to shoot right now.
He
Pull up
goes,
your paper
no,
doll.
his first question was, do you have a ranged weapon equipped? And I'm like, okay, I'm not that dumb.
Starting from the basics. Okay,
Yeah,
have you
Have you
made a
tried
hunter?
turning it off and then back on?
Are you on your priest?
right?
Okay.
Oh my god. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I learned how to shoot and then I was like, "Oh, this is super easy." And
Yeah.
then I realized so I was working up skinning and herbalism just to have gathering professions as I work up,
Mhm.
and then I'll probably change it when I get up there, but I was trying to do skinning and I realized that if my cat killed things, that I couldn't skin them. That was very depressing. I thought I was just
Oh,
gonna get to go out there and put my cat on aggressive.
yeah, you have to hit it at least once or something in
Yeah.
order to
I know, but
skin
they were
it.
like level 6 mobs. Like I hit it once and
Yeah,
it's dead. So like
yeah.
it's fine. But like I was like, skinning's not working. And I forgot to get a skinning knife at first. It's fine. It was a learning
You're
experience.
trying
Lots
to
of new
barehand
things.
it. Truly horrifying now.
It was. It didn't work. It's fine.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
she
I
just
got
has really sharp nails, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, I got both up to 75. I only played for like an hour. And then yeah, that's all
Yeah.
I
Your
did.
professions. For a second, I was like, yeah, both the 75. It only goes up to 70 right now.
I'm really quick. I
Yeah.
got the extra boost.
For me, I've been working on the professions for the rogue. I'm doing mining and jewel crafting, and I it cracked me up with mining because I pulled up a guide because I was like, well, I wonder if they changed it to where you could smelt more and don't have to go out and actually tap nodes as much here in TBC. And I pull it up, and in TBC you can go from 0 to 290 without leaving the forge. You could just smelt everything right up to 290. So I of course went and bought all the ore that I needed, and I sat there watching one episode of Squid Game and went to 290. It was
Yeah, I did
hilarious.
that I did that, I think, in pre-patch or maybe right after TBC, and not only can you get up to 290, I made money smelting and doing it. I was like, "This
Same.
is insane."
Well, okay, so I haven't made money yet, but I'm gonna have like leftover, and the bars are going for more than the ore is. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but like I'm using bars to work up jewel crafting, which actually has turned out to be a little bit more expensive than I anticipated. But I got jewel crafting up to like 180 at the moment, and it should be fairly easy with the stuff I have left to get up. So yeah, I've been doing that.
That's how I felt on my druid. I was like, I had a little extra money and I was like, I'll get jewel crafting up. And as I kept going up, I was like, this is getting more expensive than I was like thinking it was gonna be. And then I was like,
Yeah.
wow. I just eventually you just hit sunken cost. You're like, well, I gotta go all the way. Like I'm
Yep.
not gonna
It's like
stop
now
now.
I need to get to my scratcher tickets, and I'm getting
Yeah.
there. Like that's just all there is to it. But so I've done that. Been doing more twos arena during the day with your twos partner, but
Yeah.
on his priest. And so that's been actually really good. The problem is he has no gear, so we're kind of waiting in that wait mode to where he could actually survive against another person without me there. But like it's actually been pretty good, and I've been actually, since I've been doing it during the day and pretty fresh in the morning, like I've been actually able to actually hone some more skills, get better at reflecting, using all of my moves, my buttons, and so that's been cool.
Yeah, when you play, especially when you're playing with a healer, you have to be so much better. I feel like I was playing my druid with his priest as well, I think, and it was the first time I ever played my druid with a healer in twos, and I just realized how garbage I am at druid. Like all of a sudden, we're not just like having fun bursting people down. I have to like make plays, and after the burst doesn't work, I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah, like
I'm like
what
walking around. I'm cycloning. I'm like I'm trying to figure out what the heck to do, and I was like, I just got to go back to my warrior. I got no idea what I'm doing on this character.
Oh, and yeah, and then yeah, that's basically been it. It's hilarious because I've got all my moves on my rogue put on my bars, and I'm like, I don't even know. Like I need to use all these buttons on my mouse. Like what do I do? Like I literally I know I'm gonna get more moves like going up to 70, but I'm sitting here thinking, man, like I just have no moves to like use. It's so bizarre. And I played Rogue forever, and I guess I just didn't realize. I think there's a lot more to it in Wrath, and then, but
Okay,
we'll just have to see.
so here's one thing. So I use dominoes
Mhm.
and I forgot to check the little box that says per character when I set all my keybinds on my hunter. So I get onto my priest to raid.
Oh
Oh
no.
no.
Luckily, most of mine are through Healbot, like mouse over keybinds. So like it didn't affect anything other than me like mounting and like things like that. But like I kept trying to mount and it kept casting renew and I was like, what is happening right now?
I do this horrible thing on my mage. I finally like gave in and I just like set all my keybinds to exclusively just the same buttons I push on my warrior. So like I just always have I just like try to make the most analogous like in my head like which button is this like? What is sheep most like
I
on a
do the
warrior?
same
Oh, my
thing.
fear. Oh, like it's like I'm doing all these different
Oh,
things to try to figure out what I need to
yeah, I did the same thing like with my druid and my priest. Like renew was the same button as rejuve and like my bark skin was the same button as my shield on my priest because it's like, like this is my oh shit button when I do mouse wheel up, or this is my like innervating or my mana fiend. Like there are things, but then like the hunter and the priest, no, like
Yeah,
there's nope.
very, very
Yeah,
different.
so I just reset bindings, but yeah, it was interesting.
Well, I did something very interesting this weekend. So first off, we had a little Halloween party, a little Vargflocken
Mm.
Halloween party. We played Pictionary with spooky words like ghost. That was fun. And then we played Overwatch, and that was our Halloween party. And
There
I
you
was
go.
still feeling like that. That wasn't spooky enough, you know. And it's Sunday. The next day we did it on Saturday night. It's Sunday and it's Halloween time. I'm not doing anything. I don't even know. Like, not that many kids even came out. If I felt like around my area, just was kind of a depressing Halloween. But I see
Same.
someone spamming in trade chat Endgame's having their Halloween party, and there's gonna be games and prizes, and I was sitting all, like, grumpy in a basement, being a gamer, like, "I'm not doing anything today," and I was like, "You know what? Let me just go to this thing, whatever." So I show up, and the first part is a transmog contest. So I'm like, "Oh, Halloween transmog." I go whip out what's left of my skull gear. So at the end of Nax, I put together like this amount of skulls gear where every like as many skulls that were on my character at once. Like I had Widow's Remorse in one hand, the Hungering Cold. You've got Dreadnought on the silk cloak from Anubra Khan. The tank cloak has like skulls down it as the trimming, and I was like, I don't have a lot of those pieces left. I only have the Dreadnought and the Hungering Cold though, and Plague Bearer. So I just like went with that. Came in second and got 500 gold for it,
What?
which
Nice.
on my character I only had 14 gold. So that was huge and really cool.
Did you buy your epic mount?
With what? With my 500 gold?
Okay, fair.
Yeah, I bought my epic ground mount maybe on something. Um, but then there was a scavenger hunt. And this part, so I was pretty cynical still. I was kind of like, I'm here for the gold. There's gold that can be made. I'm interested. And they're putting on a scavenger hunt where I didn't really understand what we were gonna do. But we started in Eastern Kingdom and there were two sections, Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdom. Each was 30 minutes long. As soon as the timer a list was posted that some of them were like specific and some of them were vague. So it would be like any item with the word feather in it. And you have to just go out into the world. You're allowed to use flight pass, but you have to go out into the world and like that's one of the items and you knew how many points it was worth. There was one like Cluck. And if you don't know, Cluck is the name of the quest in Westfall, where if you slash chicken to a chicken, you can get a little chicken pet. So you had to go get the chicken pet. It was like get any cat carrier. There's all these different things that you could do. Buy any item from that goblin that has like limited items in Duskwood. So like all these really interesting things that kind of got you out into the world and doing all these little things that you would never do anymore. And I was like, this is actually really fun.
That is
Having to
really
That
go
is
cool.
out.
fun.
Yeah, like you have to go out and find it. And the Kalimdor one was even more interesting because the flight paths are so long. You had to like
Mhm.
map out exactly where this stuff was, and no one ever quests on Kalimdor. So no one has any idea what these items are but me, because I'm a cool guy. I'm a Darkshore quester, okay? I love Darkshore. So I knew exactly like some of these things that I think other people didn't know where they were. So I took this like perfect route, and I even ended early, and I had like all these great items, and I ended up winning, and I won 1,300 gold for winning this scavenger hunt. But aside from the gold,
Wow.
aside from the gold, the scavenger hunt was really fun.
That
Like
sounds
having to
really fun.
you were allowed to use WoW head. So like you could like try to figure out what it was, but you had a time limit. So it was like one of the items that I don't cook. And one of the things was you gotta do the cooking by the book, was just one of the hints. And the only thing that like matches in Kalimdor is you can buy the expert cooking book from a vendor. So it's like I just didn't know that, and I had no idea what the clue meant. So it's everyone had different knowledge and like different routes
Listen,
they
I
planned.
I am an expert cooker, and I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, right. But so it was just a lot of fun, and it got you out into places that you've never been, killing mobs that you would never kill, and like I almost wanted it to be longer. Like it's hard to get random people to like do that sort of thing. So it was kind of the perfect
That's
timing for
cool.
the game. But I was like, that was cool, and I realized that there's just like a community out here that I'm neglecting. That's just like doing
Right.
fun stuff. Um, and I'm just like, I've never participated in Classic in any of this stuff. So I thought that was really, really cool. And I made 1,800 gold. So woo!
Yeah.
That
Cherry
is
on the top,
really
right?
cool. I had one other thing I wanted to talk about, but I'm forgetting now. But I did want to say something I've been meaning to say on the show for months now, and I keep forgetting, so I'm going to throw it in here. It doesn't make any sense in here, but I'm throwing it in here just so I get it out. If you ever want a good time, listen to Yip reading reviews on 0.5 speed. It's the
Oh
funniest thing in the world.
no.
I was re-listening to the podcast like months back, and I accidentally turned it to 0.5, and Yip sounds so drunk when he reads the reviews on 0.5
My
speed.
name is John, and I.
It's hilarious. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I did remember what I wanted to talk about. So this started happening to me around the BWL times, in vanilla. Like I started to get comfortable with the warrior. The game slowed down in a sense. Lots of people talk about that in sports. The game slowed down, and I was able to start getting into the intricacies of like doing better DPS, right? And that's when I started to like move up and start doing a lot better. Well, that's kind of started to hit with Locke, and it's been interesting because this is the first caster I've ever played in PvE. Done it a lot in PvP, but in PvE, it's the first time I've ever started to play a caster. I realized one of my biggest weaknesses is I run too much. I literally, when you're a melee DPS, your job's to stay on the butt of the boss most of the time, unless like there's some weird thing that weird mechanic you need to get out of. But you're supposed to be on the boss. If you're on the boss, you've got the best uptime that you could have. Well, what I'm running into with the warlock, like say Alar, the first boss in TK, I'm running 5 or 6 steps further than I need to run to just be in range to start to start casting. And it's something that's so small, but I just realized it, and like it's so weird because that's something that like melee DPS just really don't have to think about. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it fits right here, but
Well,
it's
no,
what I've been
I
doing
think
this week.
I think you're totally right. It's something in Warlords of Draenor. I played a warlock, and it was the first time I played a caster DPS, and I felt the same way. I had the highest gear level of anyone on the server, but why were people out DPSing me when the rotation was simple? Like it didn't make sense. Like how all I have to do is push these buttons in this order, and I'm doing it. So why can someone out DPS me? And it's like because they're able to just stop and start casting at the exact right time, and slowly that adds up to like a couple more casts, a
Yeah, I
couple
mean,
more
it's literally
casts.
I'm running far enough past that I could get 1 or 2 more shadow bolts in, which is a huge difference in DPS. And I have a request for our listeners. If you know, I used to have an add-on back in the day that basically helped me know that I was behind a target for backstab. When you're out of range of something, the number on your or the number or whatever keybind you have turns red. I had an add-on that turned the whole key red. So it was really noticeable from, from not looking directly at it, but you're not, what's it called? Peripheral vision, that you were in range at that point. So I want that add-on, but I don't know how to find it. And I don't want to try and search through. If anybody uses one of those add-ons, please let me know. It'd be awesome, because that's the thing that I'm now trying to work on the most, and it's something I just started figuring out this week.
I feel like it's like the equal and opposite to Melee's problem, and I think it's something we ran into in AQ with DPS, is there was a lot more movement. It was like Melee has to figure out how to move as quickly as possible and get somewhere as fast as possible, and then range are trying to stop moving as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Like, I need to not be moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like on
Totally
my
different.
raid frames, as a healer, right? It's easy to turn your raid frame so when somebody goes out of range, it says out of
Yeah.
range on the frame, and it like dims it a little bit. But yeah, it's harder to know for the boss. Like I know when I have to be 30 yards away from the boss. I know if I'm at max range from Yip, I'm 30 yards away from the boss. Hopefully, unless he's on the other side.
But
All
yeah.
right, I want to go back because he snuck it in really quick before I could say anything. But Mel, I get the impression that the rewatch the podcast at 0.5 speed is some kind of metric Bob's trying to push for the podcast. Like, wow, people listen to twice as much of the podcast this week. Everyone's listening at half speed. Yeah.
Oh
They
no,
just
it was
can't.
literally I was in Best Buy. I put my phone in my back pocket without closing it, and somehow my butt turned on the 0.5, and all of a sudden I'm like, was Yip drunk on this episode? Because he's like, thank you so much for the podcast. We really enjoy your reading.
Yeah,
It's
he was tired this
hilarious.
week.
It was
That's funny.
hilarious. And then
Maybe he should have taken a nap during the podcast. Maybe we should have.
I wish.
and
Hey, I'm
I've
fighting for it. I'm fighting for our rights as workers here
oh
to
man.
nap.
Equal opportunities.
And I've
Yeah.
listened to us on the faster speed, and that's funny too. But I'd never listened to anything on the slow speed, and it was the funniest thing I think I'd ever heard. All right, well, are we done with what we've been doing this week?
Think so. Otherwise, I've been making a little gold. I've been putting stuff in the guild bank, stuff like that. We started more guild banks. I mean, we talked about it last
Oh
week, but we've got
yeah, we did.
networks of guild banks getting set up so that we can store more stuff. Like, there's not much. You can go listen to the Kim episode if you haven't. But Kim is just making us so much gold and providing
No.
so many consumes. It's unbelievable. That's all
And
I
there's
got to say
not
about
enough
that.
room for everything, and
Yeah, there's
so
just not enough room for how much incredible stuff we have.
It's insane to me. Like every week I go and I'm like, how am I able to just get all of these things that I need from the guild bank? And what do I need money for? I feel like I should just give Kim all my money at this point.
Yeah, here's what he did. This is the most important thing, is he changed people's attitudes to, why should I help the guild bank, to, the guild bank is just providing my life. I'm on, I don't
I
need
don't spend
anything.
any money on
Yeah,
anything but repairing
yeah, it's almost like, why not help the
and
guild bank? Because I
legions,
don't need
right?
to buy my consumes anymore. Yeah, great. He did a great job with that. But now,
the
that's a
only
great
thing
segue. Oh, no, only
the,
thing.
I do want to throw out the only thing, he had another idea the other night when it was him, me, and Yip, and we were just like, Kim, you just need to chill out because we're a little
Oh.
scared that he's gonna burn out.
Yeah, he was like, what if we opened up more banks for just PvP items, and then the PvPers will have a PvP guild bank? It's like, Kim,
Dude, you guys know Kim, this is like so exciting for him
it's
though.
it's
Like,
about the challenge. You need to find
yeah.
someone who likes the challenge. It's a mini game to him,
Oh
not
yeah.
about the amount of gold.
Yeah,
I love it.
I just want to keep him from burning out, and I just fear
Yeah,
is all.
yeah. Like we need all this other stuff to
You want to
keep
keep
going.
him not burning out. You don't want to
But
keep him burning out.
we do definitely need to hit on our raid this week, and
Yeah.
things
So
happen.
we will go over Tuesday first. Nothing insane happened Tuesday. I fell off the boardwalk twice. One time I didn't need to get summoned though, because we were just walking to Vash, but I definitely fell.
That was
uh,
hilarious.
I've now fallen 3 total times off the boardwalk.
Who's counting though, you know?
I
The
am.
the raid is
Oh,
because they
everybody
definitely give
is.
him shit every time.
Listen,
Yeah, I was
it's not
kidding.
like I'm not paying attention. It's just like
Mhm.
I'm like typing to somebody and then all of a sudden I'm like on auto run and I quickly didn't exit fast enough. I'm trying to turn, but I'm just typing WASD into like the
I've done
chat
that
box
so many
and I'm like
times.
panicking and I'm like, oh, oh.
Oh, I've done that too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
fair.
so that's like where I'm at with that scenario. But everything went really, really well. We decided to go down to 5 healers this week because SSC went really, really well last week, only bringing in the 6th healer for Morgrim and for Vash. And honestly, we finally freaking won Submerged Lurker. Going from like
Yeah.
a 5-minute, 50-second kill because of that stupid Submerge down to a 4-minute kill was just like incredible. It was like it was like so close.
And
It was the difference of a couple thousand damage, I think.
it was like the stars aligned too, because if you go and look at the parses, we had almost half of the raid parsed orange. 3 people had 99 parses, and then the rest of the raid, except for one person who died, parsed purple. So
Yeah.
we're talking like 90s across the board, like, and
Yeah,
it
that's
was
actually a good point.
nuts.
We had our rogue actually was having internet problems, so they died and then couldn't even get battle res. So we might have even been able to do it with 6 healers, but that was really good. Our
I
speed
mean,
was
it
really
was the
good.
rogue, you know. I mean, I'm just
Hey,
saying.
improved exposed armor is a DPS increase, and we were missing it for the rest. But um, the polls were really
I'm just
good.
kidding.
We've been getting really more into the speed pulling like we were doing in Nax. Our prop paladin prosecutor is doing like an incredible job just really trying to keep things going. I know it's a lot it can be a lot sometimes for sure, but I think it's really improving like how quickly we're moving and as we go
He's
to
more
TK.
conscious about it though. He is good about looking at mana and like even
Yeah,
if
he's
I
not
don't have enough mana, I know I can still sit and drink while
yeah,
they
he's
start to
definitely
pull.
not trying like I think an important thing is, like, the way things are approached, and he's trying to improve our speed, like, in a manner that's not gonna just, like, tilt a bunch of people. He's not just, like, ninja pulling to make sure as we're going faster. He's
Yeah.
really, like, taking the time
It
and
was
telling and trying to
I will say I did give some feedback during the raid because I was like, just a heads up, like, hey, I'm going. Is just
Yeah.
really beneficial, right? Because you're like looking at your buffs and you're like, do I need to eat my food? And then all of a sudden I like look back over and I'm like, he's dying. Oh
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
and I
especially
mean,
for
he
speed
was doing
pulls.
it. I mean, he was doing it the majority of the time.
Yeah, but
It's
it was
just
like
we were
80%.
going.
And then there was like that 20%. So then you expect
You
it,
get
right? Because we're
nervous,
at
yeah.
80% of the time he's doing it. And then that 20% that he doesn't, you're
Yeah.
just like,
Well,
oh,
and
I'm gonna get a warning.
he was going like at the cadence I think that we did the week before with 6 healers, and it was a little bit rough, but it wasn't rough to the point that it was horrible. But I mean, it's still like, props to him for how fast he's been able to like try and get the gist of it. And when he was given feedback of, hey, a couple people said you might be going too fast, he didn't take it. At least he didn't appear on the outside to take offense to it and be a jerk
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
about it.
I think only what's important is, like, this is someone who took over a role they weren't intending as
Yep.
prop
Right.
paladin, and he's just like, I think it's kind of coming out of the boredom of being prop paladin, I feel like, because it's just like, I need more.
I need to do
And he's really
something.
he's, like, doing an incredible job, like, playing like, being a I think it goes to show you that, like, even like, anyone can really help become a really important person in your raid. So for instance, like, our boomkin, who's, like, not an officer or anything, but just decided to take a lot of this, like, cooldown stuff, like swapping people in for heroism into his hands, and that sort of thing has made a big difference in our, like, raid DPS and our ability to get through boss as well. So, pretty much anybody can like, you can step up. Um, it's kind of funny. No Hit Jerome made a video about progression and
Mhm.
talking about what you can do to help progression. And one of the things he says is become like the information person in your
Yeah.
raid. Like you're the person who just knows everything, and anyone can do it. You could be a warlock, you could be a tank, you could be a healer. If you're that person who knows, like I've seen people pull it this way. All that information can help your raid incredibly improve, and anyone can
But
do
I
that,
also
and you
think
become
it's
a
who's
huge
in your
value.
raid, right?
Yeah,
Who's
yeah,
leading your raid? And I think we have a great like raid team that is receptive to things like that typically. Right now,
Yeah,
if we're
everyone
like
yeah,
in the
everyone
middle of
wants to do
something.
good too. Like there are atmospheres where like going fast like that, people just aren't like chilling out and doing that. They don't want to do that. But like we have a good group where like everyone wants to do well. So like
Right.
that is like a fundamental thing that keeps us together.
Well, and I
So
think
We
if we know that, so the healers before, like it would really tick us off, right? Because we'd all be low on mana and then we'd have to stand up, take mana pots and whatnot. One, now mana pots are pretty much provided for us to the nth degree of however many we would like. And then two, I think I know that he's waiting for this percentage of mana across healers. And so I know if I'm still at 10%, that I can still sit down and heal and just call on my other healers to say like, "Hey, can you spot Yip while I get more mana?" And they'll
yeah,
be fine with that.
and it wouldn't even be a bad idea. I think it's overkill because
Mhm.
communication is just the easiest thing. But having if you had the mana weak aura that displays the mana of the healers too, you might have like you could like see visually when he might start pulling, which is like I
Yeah,
think that's a
that's
little bit
fair.
much for all the healers. We expect to have like a weak aura that shows all the mana of all the healers. But it's that is like an easier way. There's all these little things that you can do. So that's been going really well. Um,
I will say we did wipe twice. Once because our fearless raid leader pulled the
oh
trash
yeah.
back on what's his name?
Yeah, on Fathom Lord, and
Fathom
it's funny
Lord.
because a
Oh,
lot of us
yeah.
had this thought because they pat right to the doorway. I right before we pulled, I was thinking like, "Man, last week it really looked like we could have pulled them." And I was like, "Ah, whatever." And other people apparently were thinking the same thing, and of course we pull it the week that everyone just decides to remain quiet about our fears. Because like we've never
At
done it
least it was
before.
Harscar though. At least it was Harscar that pulled. Like
He was like,
Yeah,
"Yep, I just pulled a pack. Okay, all right, yep, it's a wipe."
it's funny because like there's just nothing he can say. Like,
yeah.
there's no one to pass the buck to. Like, for me,
But that's the beauty of it. He didn't try to pass the buck. He was
I
just like, "I fucked up."
I always try to, or like if I say focus up or something, which I do a lot, half the time I mean myself, but it's like that was like he pulled the trap, just no like there's no one else.
That's yeah.
But honestly, I think I was like dead already. I think it was already a bad attempt, so I was kind of glad
Yeah,
that we got a redo.
you had got a res, I think.
Yeah, which is like there's no taunting on that, so it's kinda rough. So honestly, like, the redo made me feel better, like, "Let's do this right this time."
Yeah, but
And,
then we got through Grim with one shot again, second week in a
yeah,
row, and then Vash we got to like 6%, and then dropped her again, and so
it was
feeling
yeah,
pretty
we've got it
good.
on SSE, I hunt is, like, farm status now, like, I think that's just
I
where
think I
we're
still
at.
get
I'm a
anxiety
little
before Vash. Like I think I still like I'm like, "Oh, okay. Are
I'm
we
a
gonna do
little
it?"
worried though if Viscount or Vizal doesn't show up to one of the Vash ones, like that
Mm.
could be because he's gotten that down good now. And like, I almost feel like we should let someone else like rotate in for him on that, like just to get some practice on it, just on the first poll or something. Because
Yeah, yeah, I
it's
feel,
like one of those things where like one person knows the fight. We ran into that in vanilla with tanks, and it
well, I was
caused
gonna say with
problems.
tanking, I want the same thing with tanking. Like I want our feral to main tank a lot of these fights. I'm never not gonna be there, but I mean, like, who knows? I could maybe not be there. But like even still, there might be just fights that are better. You gain more experience. You see what the fights are like, and then maybe if we do off nights next tier or something, like you're not just dependent on the one person always needing to show up. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, we do have some key players that perform important roles that it would be nice if we have some
Yeah, I don't even know what
small
to do if
percentages.
If Desu doesn't show up. I mean, okay,
Yeah, no.
I'm just gonna take a break, guys.
All right, see you guys. We'll come see you next week.
Right? Oh god.
But that
All
was
right, so
that
I
was
did not win the death race on Tuesday, by the way. It was
uh
unfortunate. It was close. I was at 6 and Bushy was at 2. It's fine.
dang, only two. Hey, that's good. That's a good amount of
He also
deaths.
sits out one of the bosses. Okay?
Yeah, the one that he wouldn't have died on though, but he like that
Shh.
includes the wipe that we had. Oh, I guess it's just both wipes he died in. That
Yeah.
means you guys kept him alive really well on every other attempt. But we had enough time to go do a Alar again as well. Um, I ran into a problem, and I was so ready to just like whine and moan because I got destroyed. I did. I taunted Alar, and I didn't have the I didn't have the mana. I didn't have the rage to hit shield block but preemptively. But I thought Alar didn't hit that hard. I was actually thinking like, hey, I want to try dual wielding Alar sometime. That could be fun. He hit me for like 15k crushing, and then I died. And I was so shocked. I accidentally hit release at the same time I died. I was like, what just happened? Suddenly I'm in Netherstorm. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So, of course, like, Alar's like kind of easy once you get him on the ground. It's not too bad. So, like, I knew it was going to go down, and I was like, this is the freaking week the Alar expertise gloves are going to drop. I knew it in my head. I knew that they were gonna drop. And then then people started posting that they dropped. I was like, are they messing with
Are they
me?
memeing me?
Or did these actually just drop?
Well, and that's what I said. Just come in. Like, I think you could still get it.
Yeah, which I could. So everything was good. Luckily, if you die, even if you release, if you started the fight with them, you can still get loot. Thankfully, I was so worried. I
Yeah.
mean, it would have gone to a DPS, which is great, but with our luck, like maybe this tier, I
You
just never
never see
see
it again.
them. Yeah,
Dude,
I
I
was really
remember
worried.
when I first joined Vargflocken, like week 3, I like just auto released on Rag when I died. I was like, Mel, can you res me and just don't say anything about me releasing? Because I was like, res me quick so I can see what drops. I was so
That's
embarrassed
funny.
about it.
Yeah, I feel that. I
Yeah, but
definitely
at
feel
least
that.
when you released in Rag, like you weren't alive in another town.
Yeah, yeah, because that's the big thing about TK, which like had us worried because he couldn't get res because he just
Right.
is res immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as our Paladin Tank says in chat, the problem is too, we go to Alar and it's like a victory lap for us. We just down all of SSC in a night, which is really all we like. That's like the major goal is getting Vash down on Tuesday. And then that Alar, we're all just messing around. We're having a good time on the trash and dying. And like, we just don't really care that much at that point. So like, it's just, we're all just kind of having a good time when we're doing Alar.
Wait,
So
how do you know that's prosecutor?
I just know.
Dude,
I don't
everybody
know.
that shows up in our chat from Guild, I have no clue who they are. I didn't even realize that was Viscount because I just read the start of his name and didn't read the whole name.
Hello, it's. How you doing, it's?
It
Oh
literally
man,
announces who it is. It's Viscount.
I know,
It's
I
like I
know.
didn't know that was Viscount.
Well, I'm
But
like looking over, like trying to read it as fast as possible.
that's why I handled it. Listen, I know everybody. I've an impeccable memory, first of all. And
Good for
that's
you.
why I remember what happened last night. So we finished everything Tuesday, basically the same thing we did last week. We're feeling really, really good about our SSC plus LR, I guess. So now it's time to head into TK, and we ran into a problem of respawning trash last week. So what we want to do is kill Void Reaver, kill Solarian, take a little break and switch in whoever we want to switch in, like whatever subs we need to do. Then do the trash as fast as possible and start our attempts uh, on KT. Now, Void Reaver normally takes 30 minutes. We usually I allot about 30 minutes to each wing. Void Reaver and then Solarian each take about 30 minutes, and then hopefully we'll have about 2 hours starting on trash for KT. That didn't go that way this time. Instead, with our fast pulls, it only took us 20 minutes to do like each wing. We were ready.
No, I'm pretty sure we were in front of trash at 38 minutes after raid
Yeah,
start time. I
that's
looked at it. It was
that is
38 minutes.
incredible. Loot's already out. Like we
Yeah.
sped that up. We don't even need to speed it up that fast because
Yeah, but we did
it's
it and
like
we did great.
yeah, because like you speed it up that fast, the trash will still respawn before the end of raid time. So it was
Right.
like kind of funny. So that was really incredible. Like it really goes to show you how the way you're pulling, like we're not playing at an incredibly higher level. We're just as long as everyone's on the same page about when you're pulling and what the plan is on that pull, we were just going really, really fast. And so that was really cool. Void Reaver, I almost solo tanked, which was really incredible. I just kept like dodging all the knockbacks, and the threat was really good because we're doing the double heroism again, and got my set as optimized as I can, so that was cool.
We got a
Um,
cool tip from
yeah,
Harscar. I think it was Kim that told
Kim Milk,
Harscar,
yeah,
but he was like, "Hey, Lox, why don't you pull out your Void Reaver and then not sack it, but sacrifice it for the shield, and then you could fell dominance, instant bring up your other pet, sack it for the 15% shadow damage." Now, some of the locks got screwed up because we started to pull and they sacrificed, and then one of the other locks was just bringing out his pet, and so I think next week it'll be perfect because you can sacrifice it while running. You can cast Fell Dominance while still running, and then as soon as you stop, pull up your pet, sack it, and then you have this, at that point, 26-second shield that not only shields you from damage, but shields you from pushback. And it was just sweet. Like, it was really cool.
yeah.
Like, I think that was my highest parse ever on it, and I think it was like a 95 or something like that. Like,
Yeah, it was
and it
definitely
was super, super
it's a
cool.
cool little cool little practice, and next time it'll be better. I wasn't even sure if any of the locks were gonna do it that week or anything, but then I just saw one in the back still like summoning his Void Walker, and I was like, wait,
Yep.
don't go. What we need to do on that fight is just wait. Everyone needs to stack, and then the pull timer needs to start. The problem
Yeah.
is we do a pull timer, and we're all like, oh god, we gotta stack.
Well, and I said it a couple weeks ago. I was like, everybody just put Yip on. It's what we
Yeah,
used to do running to Molten Core and Blackwing Lair. We just put someone on follow, and then like everybody follows right behind. It's so
Yep.
perfect.
Yeah, you can that would work as well too. But everyone's a free spirit out there.
I just
Ah,
I got to Circle of Healing the entire time,
oh
which is
yeah, yeah.
great until you run out of mana.
Yep.
Which I was like popping like mana pots and my Shadow Fiend, but the Shadow Fiend you have to really time perfectly, right? Because if you have your Shadow Fiend out there when he does his little
Oh, the
AoE,
pounding.
you're
Yeah,
just
he'll
done,
just die,
right?
huh?
Like, so you have to time it to like right after one of those, but you really need mana during those. Um, but I used rank 3 of Circle of Healing this week, and it seemed to work better.
It
I don't
seemed
know. I
pretty
still get a
good.
65% parse. I don't even understand how you parse on that. Like, I literally was Circle of Healing the entire time.
Probably
It's
Innervates
people
would
getting
probably
innervated,
help.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Innervates would probably
But
help a ton.
but I mean,
Yeah.
nobody died. So like,
Yeah, I mean, it was a good fight. It was perfect. I'm just glad the tank part's down. That was really like I I don't like it when people have to hold back, and I don't like people die because they like get knocked back and have to
right.
like and get hit. So like that is super clean now. I'm pretty happy with that. The healers can keep me up. It doesn't matter like how egregious I get with my gear. I actually even tried keeping not re-upping my stone shield because I wanted to haste pot, but I was like, that's too much. Like I'm going too far here not using the stone shield. But then I kept the stone shield off when it dropped, and I was like, you guys are keeping me alive. I think I can drop the stone shield. Like this is so funny. Um, but so maybe I'll do that next week. But then we go to Solarian. And Solarian, I have the best parse I've ever had on Solarian. I'm an arcane soaker, but she doesn't cast Wrath of the Astromancer or whatever until a little bit in. So I pop Recklessness and I just start hitting her in my arcane set as hard as I can. And I end up doing like 40k damage and like 100 DPS. And finally, I'm not stuck at a 50 parse. I've got a 53 parse.
Oh man, dude, I can't figure out that fight. I cannot figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm working on it, but yeah, I do something incredibly wrong. That's my project for next week is
Are you
to
having
figure out.
issues with the parsing, you think? I wonder
Yeah, I
if
don't
other
know what I'm
people are
doing
like
wrong.
I wonder if it has to do with just the way we manage ads too. Could be a portion of like
Well, I think I'm kiting back, and I was watching this last week, and the Warlocks were just standing there and just going ahead and
that's
like basically face taking it. I was like, well, maybe I should do that then instead of running back, because then when the other ads pop, I'm still running back up to hit the other
it's that
pots.
running thing like you were saying. Like
Yeah.
all that movement speed will just reduce the DPS. But the fight's so easy. It's sort of like it sort of is just a parse fight. Like, how can I parse better? Because there's really no threat of us dying while we're
Yeah,
soaking.
yeah, we still have not, knock on wood, We still have not, ever
I
died on it.
I desperately. Someone please write in. Can a bear just tank the arcane without any arcane resist? Because I think buying him an arcane set would be a bit much. I just really want to main tank it one time so I can get a real number in there and not the sad little soaker number that I have. But just any time before the end of the phase. I'm not in a rush, but
But I
it's
mean, I
kind of
can
sad.
always make the cloth stuff for him, so it's always
Yeah,
out there.
that's true. That's true. Finally, Solarian's dead. It's time for KT. We take our little break. We go in. We do much better on the trash this week. That felt good, I think. Like the trash last time, I wasn't ready for it. I feel like I've only done these raids after they came out and like after they were very easy, right? Like later expansions, going back and soloing them. So a lot of these like mechanics of mobs I'm just not familiar with. So I'm still like very enthused by the whirlwind that shoots arcane missiles. I think that's awesome still. But once you kind of manage those pulls, they're really not that hard. You just have to like do them all. Maybe a
Can I
person will die to the whirlwind.
can I point out that I won the death race on Thursday?
Does that mean you had more deaths? No, I'm
No,
joking.
no, no. It means I had less deaths than
Nice.
Bushy. And
Nice.
I
Bushy,
feel like
every
this is
time.
for the
Okay,
end.
No,
hold
no,
on.
no,
What? To be
no.
fair,
This is
though,
the trash. This is the
it's the
trash.
trash. Bushy died to that
Yeah,
whirlwind like
every
6
time,
times.
almost.
Like,
Yeah, and
yeah,
he's like, I look at it and it's at like 2%, and I think, I can get it down. And then he's like, and then it hits me for all this. He's like, it's at 2% of full health, and then I die, and I'm
it's
like,
like
yep,
cat form in arena. It's like you just don't. They're so squishy. You don't realize how squishy you're gonna be until you're not a bear. The same way, like that flurry, just like one
yeah,
shots of the
oh
cat.
yeah, yeah.
Insane.
No,
Uh,
it's hilarious. So every time one of us dies, the person that didn't die will whisper, Psst, and the other one's just like, I hate you right now, and tries to explain themselves. Usually it's me.
Incredible. I'm gonna talk about the boss now, since we
Okay,
make it
fine.
to the boss without any issues, except for our bear tank dying over and over again. um, so we run into a couple problems on KT that I will go through. Our first pull, I'm trying to actually think, how did our first pull go? The initial phases are super easy. The only person who was new on that fight is we brought in another elemental shaman. So normally we have 6 shamans, but last week we only ran with 5 just because like we're trying we don't want to sit the same people just keep getting sad. It's always
Right.
melee. We're just trying to fit in as many people as we can without it being like horrible. Um, but it is a little bit horrible. But we sat them last week. This time we decided we need all of our shamans. Like we just need all of our
Mhm.
shamans. The first beginning parts still easy, those phases. Second, the we did run into a couple of issues on the weapons. I think it's just overzealous people. The biggest thing with this fight is there's just no
Well,
point in dying.
you brought up a good point after that first one. I did not realize that nothing would despawn until the last weapon
Yeah, I
died.
wasn't actually sure 100%
But
because it
pointing that
happened to
out
us
is
the first
huge
time.
because the staff would always die first. So you've got all your rage just running up there and grabbing the staff, and like that was a waste. That was a waste of time after we
Yeah,
found
no,
that
Well,
and
I
out.
think because we went through it that one time where it did despawn, but it's
yeah,
because we went
the
so
Yeah,
close to the
PTS.
end
Yeah,
timer.
PTSD there.
yeah. The thing is, though, the weapons despawn when the next phase starts. But we had this issue where the first time we did the weapons, the next phase started as people were looting and they didn't get their weapons. So we
Mhm.
were like, oh, people are just like trying to loot as they die. And I legitimately asked. I wasn't like trying to call out casters, but I was noticing that things were taking longer to kill because all the casters start running up and looting the staff. And I'm like, I wish they were just still killing stuff because I want to go get my weapons. But my weapons are still alive over there. So we ended up just killing them as quickly as possible and then picking everything up. We as long as you have like 15 seconds, that's kind of plenty of time to grab what you need.
Although
But
I don't know if anybody else came into this problem. I'm gonna just interject here because me picking up the cosmic infuser for some reason it always like died right on top of the other two, and like I
oh yeah,
had to move my mouse around like 20 different angles to
you got
try
to
to
loot them
find.
all. You gotta have space for
Oh,
all of them and just loot them all. That's what I do. I make because
okay.
I can, like, wield all these stupid weapons, I can loot them and, like yeah, like, the bow and the axe die off to the side, and everything else is just on top of each other,
Yeah,
and it's a total
and I was like, "Where
mayhem.
is my cosmic infuser?" I
Yeah.
I guess I forgot that I could loot more than one. So yeah,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
Well, and then there
that's
was also the deal with just people not realizing for certain weapons you need to be like using the use on it quite a bit.
Yeah, the staff has this weird thing. So the staff applies an incredible AoE where you'll still get hurt by like the conflag and stuff like that, but you can't be CC'd. So you don't get disoriented, you don't get stunned. There's one other thing, but it's like you don't get any of the disorients. Um, so it's really important to have up, but it's such a weird little aura. I don't know what causes it to drop, but like as people move around, it starts dropping from people, and like it's just you just got to keep like
I
using it to
think
make
it
sure it's
only
on.
works like once it's on, it only works for one of the things. And so like I was just doing a thing where every other cast I would just click it cuz you can spam it, but then I've heard that will
Yeah,
lag
I've
people
heard that.
out.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to just hit it like every other cast, and it's not on the global cooldown, so it doesn't really affect your DPS. You just can't be casting something when you hit it. So you can
Yeah.
hit it in between, and that I think that helped a lot to get people to know that oh they do need to use this use more than just once because I think a lot of people were just using it once.
Yeah. But the main thing that really turned around that next phase, phase 3, when all of the lieutenants are up, it's just the DPS on Thaladred, and I figured that we were gonna be much better about it this week because everyone had a better understanding of, like, how do we get the most DPS on this guy? And it's not really kiting him away from everyone, it's actually more like kiting him, like, sorta into everyone and then away from everyone, or, like, a circle around everyone so the range don't have to run around doing any, crazy stuff, and we had double heroic or double heroism on Warlocks this time, and, that made Thaladred go down a lot easier. I saw people using their melee. I think melee can go on Thaladred. It's very easy to not get hit from Thaladred. The timers are super accurate, and he's like the biggest problem. You get Thaladred down so that the range can just pump on those stationary targets, and I think the overall DPS goes up by a ton.
I will
And
say
I'm
it's deceiving how far you have to be away from him though when he targets you, right? Like
Oh
yeah,
I
yeah,
felt like I
he
it's
was
a
like,
punts you
big
real like I was like a good 15 meters or whatever the in-game thing is, and I got punted. I was like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty far. So you do need to really have room or like make sure that if he turns to you, you're not gonna get punted right away. You need a lot of room, but that makes it hard to stand in a safe spot to do DPS because you want to be within range that if he moves somewhere, you're not immediately out of range. So finding that balance, I knew would just take extra time. Like it
right.
just gonna that first week, people are learning the fight. You're not gonna have your highest DPS on a fight when you're learning it. Um, but this time our DPS was really, really good. We were going into the 4th phase, with about, like, 15 to 20% left on, like, 1 guy. It was really, really solid this time.
Mhm.
Um, our our se our 2nd attempt, we actually didn't even make it that far. We just wiped it up. Everything was horrible. I think our druid died to Sanguinar, so the Sanguinar died in a horrible spot in the 1st phase, and then, like, when he came back up for phase 3, he just started fearing everybody in a horrible
Yeah.
position.
Well, and
It was really bad.
didn't he
Crushing
kill our
blow
it was like
like
3 crushing blows in
3 in a
like
row.
in a matter of like a second or 2.
Okay, I'm about to put someone on blast publicly that I shouldn't. Our bear druid. Bear should have more than 17,000 health. He got hit for 17,000 health very quickly.
Was he in the
70,000
wrong
health
gear?
is not very much. He just wears a lot of DPS gear a lot of the time. So like he died, but I think that in some slight if you guys are having trouble with the flurries, first of all, he should have been able to dodge. It's crazy for a druid to get hit 3 times in a row. But
Mhm.
um all of them hit, unfortunately. All of them crushed and unfortunately he died. And that was just he just got just completely demolished. But I think gearing a little more safely, having a little more health, you can prevent those kinds of deaths. Um, Even still, that was an insane amount of damage to get, and that didn't happen in
Right.
any other attempts. So, phase 4 is where we're still having some issues. I honestly think that getting into phase 4 is not too big of a deal anymore. But we're having some issues with people moving from flame strikes. We're having some issues with people maybe not hitting the egg quite enough.
Hmm.
But luckily this week we weren't having too many issues with kicks on Fireball, which is what was really killing us last time. Like the real killer is the tank just getting obliterated
Right.
by a Fireball. So that I was much more ready this time to handle that. I was I was ready. So you can actually like soak an additional Pyroblast if you save your last stand for it, and then your Nightmare Seed too for the next one. So you can sort of live maybe. So I was just like always ready. I was always ready to do a backup kick when Fireball was going to come out, and I was always ready to last stand if a Pyroblast was going to hit me if we didn't break Shock Barrier fast enough. So that
Well,
wasn't
and I
too
will
bad.
say, from the caster standpoint, like I think it was very helpful. So Harskar was like, we all stood in one spot because that was our problem last week, is that
Mhm.
we were too spread out, and so MCs weren't getting taken care of quick enough, right? And so we all stood in one spot, and he'd be like, okay, we're gonna move left or we're gonna move right if we get, the little whatever it is on the ground. Um, and I think that helped a lot because everybody moved to the same spot, and then you were there when people got MC'd, and I think that that really organized it better,
Well, and
and you
then
didn't have people running all over.
also the flame strike, the initial graphic for it is like if you get caught in that, like just like you need to just get a slap in the face. But after that, it spreads out further, like quite a bit further. And if you don't have your graphics on the right thing, like
Yeah, mine,
I
I
can
think I have my
barely see
spell
it.
effects I have my spell effect particles on low or whatever, and I cannot see it on the ground. I just move the heck away from it, and I just stay there.
well, and the
Can
good thing
barely see it.
is GTFO was actually working last night. It's been crazy
Mhm.
because I think they're actually getting it up to speed because in the last 24 hours they've had 3 different updates for
Oh, wow.
GTFO, so I think they're actually getting it set for all the stuff. So maybe it'll work on the Vash stuff going forward. You won't have to use the weak aura. So it was actually working last night, but one of our people had it and it wasn't working, and I wonder if it was just like he just hadn't updated it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and someone in chat asked, "Can non-herbalists use Nightmare Seeds?" And yeah, anyone can use Nightmare
Yeah.
Seed. So a Nightmare Seed is like a little mini last stand. It gives you 2,000 health, and it uses the same cooldown as your health stone. So instead of getting healed for 2,000, I can actually just gain 2,000 health, which for a tank is actually better.
Yeah. Because
Because
you're gonna
it
get
gives me a
healed.
bigger health
Yeah,
pool.
it's
But
like a trinket.
here's the
How long do
secret.
you gain 2,000 health for?
30 seconds, which is, like,
Oh, that's
not
pretty
too
good.
bad.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I pop that as Murlocs are coming out, or, like, before Murlocs come out, and I have, like, a lot much more leeway for, like, Morigrim, but the main thing that I use the Nightmare Seeds for is if I'm gonna be doing something risky, like Void Reaver, for instance, I might wreck on pull. Well, in order to make it easier for healers, I pre-nightmare seed so that I just have a higher health pool. So I'm not just gonna like instantly die. And that way they have like some leeway to get into place and then heal me. So
I
nightmare
always know
seed is a
Nice.
something's
really
going
useful thing.
on.
Yeah.
I always know something's going on when Yip's like, "All right, guys, I'm gonna need a lot of heals." I'm like, "Why? Why? What are you doing? We've done this fight so many times, and you haven't needed a lot of
So
heals. What's different?"
sometimes I'm not changing anything, but I just want to remind people that I'm not in my full mitigation set for this anymore,
That's
guys.
fair.
I just want to remind everyone I'm hitting the wreck button. I take 20% more damage. I'm not wearing a shield. I'm wearing arena gear.
Don't forget about me.
Yeah. So
It is good
um
though, because I do think we get set in like
yeah.
understanding how much damage typically happens, and then like
Oh
being
yeah.
like,
I
"Oh crap."
For sure. So yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm doing. I'm using the Nightmare States. I'm using Last Stand for Pyroblasts. I'm keeping the threat is not an issue at all on KT. Maybe because people are fighting like Sanguinar, whoever's left over before you go to KT. But I had a huge threat lead, so what I would do is just hold my global cooldown for a kick. If I thought like, hey, it's been a moment since Fireball's come out, I'll just wait. Like I don't need to parse. We just need to kill this boss, right? Me not dying
Right.
is all that matters right now. So we let's see. Was there any other problems on
The
I guess like the
on the
kiting of
second
the
attempt,
phoenixes.
the eggs were kind of a problem, but
Well, we got
Yeah.
a problem
but
with
I
the
will say,
aggro on the phoenixes. Remember, like people
Yeah.
have taken aggro on the phoenixes, and then prosecutor couldn't get
Well, it
them.
wasn't it wasn't taking aggro. It was prosecutor was getting like disoriented or mind
Oh,
controlled,
okay.
and then they
You
yeah.
guys,
just
can I
drop ag.
Well,
can I
and
tell you when
so
he first said that in chat? No, hear me out. When he first said like, yeah, like this would happen and this would happen, and I just got disoriented,
You thought he
and I
meant
thought
literally
he meant like
disoriented?
he actually got disoriented, and I was like, oh, that's a bummer. And then like as we went on, I was like, oh no, that was a move. Okay, he's good. I thought like he got disoriented as to like where he was.
That's actually really funny.
that
I
is
feel like
really
I wanna
funny.
start using that, like, not in game, like, I got disoriented. Like, that happens to me when I'm, like, taking a boss where the camera is just, like, all messed up, and I'm just, like,
Ugh.
looking at his feet upside down, and I'm like, I don't know where if I hit
It's like what
forward.
happened. It's like what happened to me when I was like underneath the platform of that one boss.
Yes!
I was like, I
That
don't know
no,
where I am.
this because that same night that happened to me, I understood entirely. I was like, "Where am I? How do I get out of here?"
Like, and you're dying, so all of the like pressure is on,
Yep.
right?
Oh, but
Yeah,
Oh.
we did have a little bit of problems with the eggs on that second attempt. Like we weren't getting them down. I don't know if people weren't switching to them. One thing I did notice, because I was checking for it, but I didn't find one of the ads that had a Curse of Agony on it, and I was checking for it. I'm proud of the locks for not casting Curse of Agony on them and making them die faster.
yeah.
And like that's a big thing because a lot of people like to get that extra boost, and it didn't. At least I didn't catch anybody doing it. So
Everyone was being good and trying to get the boss down. I feel like a crazy person. Let's talk about
Disoriented.
phase 5, I guess. Um so getting to phase 5, it's not the first we've been to phase 5 before, which is unfortunate that we haven't downed them in phase 5. Um
Wait,
so
yeah,
what's
we're
phase 5 again?
but I mean,
that's
you
the
talk
last
about
phase.
that like that, but we
Oh,
got
the
to phase
gravity
5.
one?
Yeah, we got to phase 5 twice. Our first night in 5 attempts, so it's
Yeah.
not
We
Oh, no,
like
no,
never
that's
had the
great, but it
gravity.
is supposed to be, like, the free phase, so it feels like once we get there, like, "Dang it, I really wanted
We
it at
never
that
got to the
point."
gravity part of it though.
No, we did.
we did, yeah, twice.
We've done the gravity twice on the first night last
Yep.
week.
Yeah, and what I was
Did I
horrible
fall
on
asleep
that
during that?
stage. I was the idiot that was like, "Are we supposed to kill the eggs?" And Harskar's
That
like,
was so
"No,
funny.
don't hit the eggs. Aren't you listening?" And I was like, "Oh, I should have been
Dude,
listening, but I was trying to get close enough to the ground and get away from people and be
I
in the
don't
right spot, and I
You
wasn't
guys
even
left
I don't
casting on
wanna
the
me.
out
You did
boss."
him.
not have to fly down to the ground.
No,
We
no,
did.
Okay.
yeah, you fly
We
down
did.
to like where you
Mm.
don't die. But like I was trying to
Yes, I
find a spot
understand.
What if
away
you were
from
dead or you might
everybody.
have been dead already, who knows? Like,
Oh, that's
we
true.
never like, that very well could be the case, but,
I was like, I
yeah,
never did that, guys.
we had been there twice, and, yeah, I don't even I could be wrong, but I think he didn't say, "Are you listening?" I thought I heard him say it was so funny because
No, he
I'm
said,
focused
"You
on these
guys need to
fireballs.
listen," is what
Oh,
he
I
said. I
thought
was
I
like,
heard him
"Shit."
say, like I thought at some point, I thought he said, like, "Are you insane?" or something, like, he was, like, freaking out at this
Oh,
point. We're in phase 5, and you're like, "Should we be attacking eggs?" And he's like, "Bah."
Are you insane? What are you doing?
It's like anyway, but I'm so focused on these fireballs, and what's funny is I use push to talk because I'm a very vocal WoW player. If I had voice activation on, every time my health got low, you'd hear me going like, ah! Ah! like just freaking out like the whole time. And it's like I can't allow that. But I needed to keep screaming for people to kick, and apparently it was like only keying up like my yelling parts. I'd be like, ah! This is hilarious to me. I'm just screaming as we're
oh my
doing this
god.
boss. Everyone's freaking out, getting this, trying to get this kill, and I'm like sitting here making sure everything's getting kicked, but the kicks were getting worse. because I think maybe he
Mm.
speeds up the cast. I'm not sure. I think maybe he speeds up the cast at this part. And I was just like, this is insane. Like, this is so we're just barely getting these kicks. And I decide I'm full health, but I'm like, I'm shield walling because he's at like 6%. And if
Yeah.
I'm shield walled ends, we might be able to kill him even if I die. Like, that's the plan. Like, shield wall now. And I shield wall, and that next fireball doesn't get kicked. And I get hit with it, and I live thanks to the shield wall. And the boss freaking dies, dude. We
Woo!
kill KT, and oh
Did
my
it!
god. And I feel like a crazy person because I thought we had 4 pulls last night. But when I look at logs, there's only 3 pulls last night.
Yeah.
We only had
Those
3.
those pulls take forever. We were
Yeah.
in that room. We thought respawns were coming soon, and we only had 3 pulls.
Yep.
Like, what blows my
And
mind is
I was watching it, and I just was being quiet about it because I was like, well, this will just get everybody speeding up. Like, we'll just get the pulls faster in. And I just was quiet about it. But I was like, I knew before we downed him, I knew we'd only pulled it twice.
Dude, I felt like I think the problem was I was so exhausted when we started, and by the end, I felt like I was like low blood sugar. I was like, oh my god, I'm so tired. Like, this fight is so long. I'm so tired. I'm like hungry. I'm like, oh my god, this fight.
I know.
Um,
Bob was like, "Are you gonna go to Gruel and Mag?" And I was like, "I can't. I
it was
can't. If you want me
it
to
was
stay
a
awake
lot.
for the whole podcast tomorrow, I can't go to Gruel and Mag tonight."
Yeah,
But
well, for Yip and I, it like woke us back up, and we're like, yeah, we'll go to Group Mac. Yeah.
yeah, but think about this, right? Our first attempt was really good. We got to the 4th phase,
Mhm.
right? And we almost got him to the 5th phase. He was at like 52% or something, like nearly to that next phase. The second attempt was entirely scuffed because our bear
Yeah.
duo just got owned. And then the third attempt, we got it. We basically
Well,
like,
no, and we lost a couple people at the beginning of the second attempt
yeah,
too.
the second attempt was like awful. We should have just
Yeah, we
wiped it
used like 3
immediately.
battle reses or something.
Yeah, it was truly it was I think that attempt was why I was like, "Oh, like, we might not get it." And
Hey.
I was like you know what the problem is? I might have miscalculated what time it was because, like, the time zones and stuff are weird, and I think
Right.
maybe I thought it was, like, 40 like, an hour later than it was because I was like, "My god, we have to stop soon." But after we were done Grohl after, like, it was still within raid time.
Oh, yeah.
It was incredible how quickly we got all this stuff done, and we actually looking back, like, it felt like it was hard fought, but I think we actually did an incredible job
Yeah, I mean,
at
we dropped him on the 8th attempt overall. That's a big thanks to like Crix and his
yeah.
amazing video and
Naismith for also
Naismith for
coming and, like,
coming in and
giving us all
helping
that great
us.
feedback and telling us what they were struggling with and how they were able to get it down.
And
Uh,
huge to our officers, our tanks, the healers. Like it was just, I mean, it feels good. Like we're doing a good job. It feels good.
Yeah, I definitely I don't know, I felt like maybe it would've been really hard if we had started with KT, but then I think, well, we would've probably gotten attempts on him week 1. We would've been able
Yeah.
to start progression on him sooner than we started Bash progression because we got stuck on Morgrim for a week, and then, like, we start Bash, so it
See,
was
I thought about this all last night, and I feel like our guild would have, regardless, tried to drop everything except for the last 2. So we would have done more. We would have
yeah,
done Morgrim, and I feel
Mhm.
like if we hadn't went through the trials and tribulations of 20 polls on Vash, I don't know that we would be as tight of a unit and have been able to drop KT
that's
as
how I
quick as we
feel.
did.
I think
Yeah.
my initial thoughts of Kael'thas being very hard for our guild, I think was correct. Like I feel like we're a new guild. Going into phase 2, I felt like we were in our infancy again. Like we had to relearn how to wipe, we had to relearn how to pull. Compared to our first week of SSC and TK, we're becoming like a well-oiled machine where we're playing
Mhm.
together. And that Lady Vash, like requiring everyone to go get Thornlings outside of raid, and that first guys, like it kind of like that first time we brought Thornlings and the first like attempt we had with Thornlings 25 Thornlings got placed down. And
which
that
was
was like,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Like
Now some were in the
everyone,
middle of the room, some were like in the
yeah,
weird spot.
we didn't know what we were
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
Some
yet.
people put them down.
But
Yeah.
either way, all 25 people took the
That's what I'm
time
saying.
out of their schedule to go and do that for the better of the group.
Yeah.
And that shit feels good.
Even people who thought it was like very cheesy of a mechanic, which I totally agree. And there's a lot of things that I really don't like that's going on right now with some of these cheese mechanics. But the fact that we were able to get everyone coordinated like that, everyone worked really hard to get Vash down. KT was like, we're already here. Like we just need to learn it
Do it.
and get it done. And that's how I feel like we did it. 8 total pulls, not too bad at all. But again, I mean, I think on our third pull we got to phase 5 before. Like I knew we were going to be able to do it. We were.
Yeah,
I
but I
just knew.
don't think we would have done it that fast if we
Yeah,
hadn't have focused Vash first.
yeah. Vash,
Honestly.
and I think having done both now, I think I like Vash more. I think I like doing Vash more.
I think doing Vash more was more beneficial because you got more attempts. I think if we would have done KT first and Trash would have
Yeah.
respawned and different things like that, like we would have been so defeated. And it's just such a long fight. Like I know Vash is a long fight too. It doesn't seem quite as long in as many phases.
It's
And KT just felt like so defeating
It's
when
because we
you
lie. We all lie about how many phases KT has. I keep calling it phase 5, but phase 1 is made up of 4 individual phases of
right.
each lieutenant getting up, doing its thing. It dies. There's a 20-second wait for the next one. There's RP later. It's like, yo, can
Well,
we just kill these bosses?
That's something we should also point out to like people that are trying to do this. Like, you don't need to blow cooldowns during that time. Like, you don't need to like maybe the first guy, but either way, if you're a caster blowing cooldowns, like you might get focused and have to just move. Like, you really just have to down those guys and save your umph for later. Like, save your umph for when all 4 of them are up.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, for sure. So because it really is like a slow fight. It doesn't matter. You just don't want anyone to die. Like it doesn't matter how quickly you do the weapons phase, as long as you have time to pick up the weapons. Like you just want to prevent as many issues as possible, so that you can have 100% of people coming into that last phase. That's what matters the most.
Yep, but felt good. Yeah. And we're
It
10
really
to 10
does.
now.
We're freaking 10 out of 10. We weren't the fastest.
Whoop, whoop.
We were the best.
But we were the best.
Around, nothing's ever
Yeah, we were
gonna get you
the
down.
fastest. We were my favorite. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
All right,
But there,
guys.
we're done. We're 10
Feels
of 10.
good.
Woo! Let's
See you
move.
next tier.
Yep, let's move
Yeah.
into the news. So in the news this week, I told everybody we're going to do TBC first, and we're going to do Season of Mastery second. Well, there's no TBC news really at all, so we're going right into Season of Mastery, and the first thing on the list is the changes they did to Molten Core. Now, I'm going to read these out. If you want to chime in on them, go ahead, but if you don't want to, like, we'll just talk about the changes. So, first boss, Lucifron, instead of having 2 Flamewalker protectors, they have 4 now, which sounds like Cleave Heaven to me.
Yeah. Can't wait to whirlwind.
Yeah. But also at the same time, probably a lot more dispels needed, and that was always a problem at least for our guild in vanilla. So, see what happens with that. Magmadar now has 2 core hounds that spawn every minute, and Lava Bomb is cast more frequently. So Lava Bomb was that like flame that would pop on you guys, like you'd have to move out of it. It was just a AoE on the ground. But the core hounds are new. Like he's just spawning 2 core hounds every minute, and they're the same as the core hounds that you work up to get to him. So if one of them dies first, it respawns.
And I'm sure if you're anything like us, That sometimes happens. So on a boss, it seems like a lot to be coordinating.
Yeah, it seemed like the majority of the people that did it would just have off tanks gather them up, and they would kill them after Magma Dart dropped, rather than trying to kill them during the encounter. So it was just an extra thing to, you know, to like get someone else to be doing a job during the kill.
Yeah.
Gehennis is accompanied by 4 flame walker. Wait, no, hold on.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, Gehennis. Okay, sorry. Yeah, he's
Been so long.
accompanied by 4 flame walkers instead of 2, and his rain of fire is cast more frequently. Gar now does a he'll spawn Magmakin will spawn on top of Gar, charge a random raid member, and then explode. What's
Just like a little
Magmakin?
it's just like an elemental guy.
Okay.
It's like magma kin, like kin of magma.
So yeah, like that's interesting. Baron Geddon actually looked really interesting. Now instead of living bomb on 1 player, it's on 3. So I've seen like a lot of raids pull him into Gar's room rather than fighting him in his normal spot. Also, at the end of Living Bomb, whoever shoots it off leaves an inferno patch on the ground that stays. So you kind of have to spread those out, and your 3 people have to know which directions to run into. So that was kind of cool. Shazra is really interesting. So Shazra, every time he casts Blink, will leave behind an image of Shazra. And I saw some wipes on this where there's like 9 Shazra images that are just all spamming Arcane Explosion. And so any image that he leaves behind spams Arcane Explosion, and it's just a little nuts. Golamag, the core Ranger pets, are now permanently buffed by Golaman's Trust, increasing their physical damage and attack speed. Golamag now casts Earthquake throughout the fight, whereas before it would only cast below 10% total health remaining. Now, I don't remember Earthquake. Did we just kill him so fast at 10% that we never saw it because it was execute phase?
I gotta be honest with you. I think so. I've got no idea what that is.
Yeah,
But execute phase lasted so little time that I could believe that we just never saw it.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Sulfuron, I think is pretty much the same, but the Flamewalker priests all have a shared health pool. Now, can you actually go over this one yet? Because I never actually truly understood that fight throughout the entirety of Classic. Like sometimes I'd be told to tank something, and like I literally was just clueless the whole time.
So the problem is that he has 4 adds that all do insane heals. So at first, what we would do is pull one off and kill them one at a time, and it makes it really easy. That's like the safe way to do it. And then you kill Sulfuron. Super easy. They can't heal each other. You only need one guy kicking the add that you're pulling away from everything else. Then, when we got good, we held everything together. We assigned kicks to each of the 4, and we just AoE'd everything down. Now the problem is, and then we AoE'd everything down, and then we would kill Sulfuron over the next minute, right? Because he'd be alone. Now we need to be kicking the Flamewalker priests the whole time, and like you'll still AoE probably, but like you'll have to keep kicking them for like minutes now. And if they heal, it's gonna be an insignificant heal. It's gonna be pretty nuts. But there's some other changes that they've done too, which will make it even more nuts. You can't just stack them all together. You have to spread them out because they're inspiring each other. So a lot of these changes seem to be focused on multiple tanks. That's what this seems to be really about. You can no longer have a single tank on most of these fights. on most of these fights, it sounds like you probably won't even be able to have 2 tanks. Like, these require multiple people who are probably coordinating. It might open up the possibility of, like, maybe bears being used more often, because it's like on one fight, you might need 2 tanks, and on the next fight, you're gonna need you're gonna need 6 tanks or something, who knows? But that seems to be what they're going for.
Yeah, and then Major Domo, the Flamewalker Elite now have a Fireball Volley spell. So, I mean, does that really change much?
I guess just having to pay attention to which way you're facing, or does he might, I don't know if he targets.
It's the Flamewalker Elites that have the Fireball Volley now. So
Yeah,
they're
those
his
are
little
like those are
minions.
the big dudes that we kill one at a time. So normally we sheep the casters, and then we kill the elites one at a time. But now they just do a fireball. It might just be more raid damage during the fight, so it makes it harder.
Yep. And then Rag. Now, Rag's actually really cool because I think it's hilarious because some of the stuff that I listen to, people are like, Rag's got a whole new phase. And I'm like, no, that was in there. We just killed him too fast. It was in there. We saw it in vanilla plenty of times. But Rag will force submerge at 50% health. And that's when the Sons of Flame come out, and they're just like fire elementals. And the whole raid kind of needs to collapse in to bring them all in. And I just remember it always being really hard for melee, because we'd have to run around that little what do you call it, like spiral. But that happens, and then they don't have it here, but at 30% he's supposed to spawn more Sons of Flame. It's not in here, but that was definitely in there when I was watching people do it. Also, he has a 60-minute timer. So you have 60 minutes from when you first pull him to kill him, or it's sayonara until next week. Kind of similar to the Blackwing Lair thing on, what's it called? The second boss that was in there in vanilla that was not in there in Classic. So that's interesting. Like, I think it's really neat because I was watching some of the stuff, and GMs were actually showing up in their robes and everything, and resetting bosses so people could do it over, and then making small changes to it.
Wow.
This happened on multiple different, like, EU. I saw it happen on NA. I saw it happen on even what's the Aussie servers? I forget what they're called.
Argyle.
Yeah, but they're called
Oceanic.
Yep. So, yeah, they, like, GMs were actively making changes and having them do bosses over, which I thought was really cool, and it really shows that they're really trying to make something special here, and something a little different, and a little. You got to give it to them. Like,
They
this is
nailed
pretty
it.
cool.
They did what they had to do, which was like fundamentally change these bosses, and almost like fundamentally change the way you approach a raid. Because like I said, these sound like you need tanks. And I don't mean like Fury prot tanks. I mean like someone who can tank some of this stuff. Like having to tank these guys that
Yeah.
are inspiring each other harder than ever, and there's 4 that you need to tank. I mean, you're gonna need to really change what you're doing here. I guess my biggest takeaway from reading this, how would anybody clear for Molten Core without dying now?
I know. I'm worried about
Good luck on the road to
Cargos's
Rag,
road
right?
to Rag.
Yeah. I just I think that's really I really think that's a really cool thing. I just don't see how it's even possible
So here's
without a
how it's
ton of
possible.
gear.
You have to take a bunch of your ults that aren't hardcore and clear it. Everybody in the classic era, yeah. Take them. Clear it. Figure out all the nuances. And
They don't have
then
time.
Yeah, but
This
it's
is just
not in Classic era.
yeah, like it's not
oh,
it's only
And
gonna be in the
And
good
their
luck.
rules are they can't be carried. Like, that's something that lots of people are a little worried about with the way the quote unquote Iron Man buff is set up, is like you don't die. But then there'll be raids that are carrying people through Rag, that, and they'll get the title that they killed Rag without dying, but they're being carried, and people are really worried about that. It's probably going to happen. So
Yeah. I mean, it fundamentally, I I don't want to be
I
this
mean, you
guy.
have to not wipe.
Yeah, I mean, no, but yeah, you'd have to not wipe, but only if you have 39 people who aren't hardcore characters and one character who is, you just have to get that guy to not die.
yeah, and you basically would save DIs for him.
Yep.
Like you could
What
basically
are you
make it so
saying that
there was no way that he's gonna die on his road to Rag.
I thought there was gonna be like raids of hardcore players.
No, there is
That's
for Road
player
to Rag.
organized
Yeah,
though.
that's player organized. I'm just
There's
saying
no
that.
rules in the game that will prevent someone
Oh
from
yeah,
getting
yeah.
ahead. That's the problem because like in RuneScape, where the game is much more single player, if someone else helps you with something, you just don't get any loot. But with
Mm.
World of Warcraft, where in order to get this loot, it requires the help of other players, it starts getting a little bit weird where yeah, that person might not have died, but if they're getting carried by a bunch of people who are allowed to die, it sort of doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah. I
sure
feel
that's
like it has
something.
to be like a raid road to rag.
Yeah, that's what they'll be doing, but it thinks there's no system in game where like
Yeah,
you can prove that this raid had all these
fair.
people in it. But that sounds really difficult. I love that the changes that they're implementing. It sounds really hard. A lot of these boss fights sound more interesting than some of the boss fights that are in TBC. It just seems hard. And
I mean, I
I
like
think
that they
that's
went with the
cool.
percentage. I like that they went with the percentage. I think they listened to us and heard us
Yeah, they
say that
stole everything.
that was the best move. I think that's the only way to do it, right? To get everybody to hit all the mechanics, I think you have to go percentage.
Yeah, a lot of these a lot of these are actual mechanics that exist. They just tune them up so you have to deal
Yeah,
with them, as
and
opposed
I
to
think
before you just
increasing
ignore
health
them.
made it longer and more annoying, but making it percentage based on
Yeah,
mechanics is
percentage rates,
actually
and then
cool.
adding entirely new mechanics, and these ads are
Yeah.
gonna change everything. So that is pretty cool. And then there's
Yeah, I
some
think it's
other
pretty
season
cool.
mastery changes as well too.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
so this was another idea of ours, but basically they're increasing the availability of Plague Bloom. They're adding a chance for Black Lotus to drop from high level herbalism nodes and increasing the availability of elemental fire, elemental earth, elemental water. I think this is really cool. I don't know how they're increasing the availability. Does that mean the mobs drop more, or there's more mobs that'll drop the elementals?
I would
Um,
imagine the drop rate is higher.
Well,
it
that
could
just
be
seems
though
making the rich richer, though, if
It
that's the
could
way
be
it
though that
is.
they increase the level range. So like the Fairless water elementals that are higher level than the water elementals in Stranglethorn don't drop elemental water, but the ones that are lower level in Stranglethorn drop elemental water. So it might just
Ooh,
be, hey, we're gonna increase which mobs can actually drop this. But since it includes earth and fire, that makes me just think that it's just gonna drop more often because I don't know what mobs like I don't know what elemental earth mobs don't drop earth. Maybe there are some, but I think the easiest thing to do would be increase drop rate, but you still run into the problem unless you're super layering. If bots are going to bot everything, then the
yeah.
economy still ends up controlled. This is just useful for making sure everyone can make enough gear by the tier
Yeah.
because
What I
everything's
do like about
expedited.
the
It would
what
be
I like
cool, though,
about
if
the
the lower
herbalism
elementals
stuff
dropped them more, though.
Yeah.
what I
The-
like about the herbalism stuff is that it added getting a black lotus is like a bonus from other herbs, but it didn't remove the black lotus from being there as well. So I think that that may solve a problem of Black Lotus being so unattainable to people because they're not going to farm every herb, right? Because right now, what we're seeing in classic TBC is that like Terracone is the new Black Lotus, right? Even though you need this other lotus to make it,
Yeah, it doesn't
everybody
matter
gets
because
those,
yeah.
right? So I think it being a random drop is huge.
Yeah, it's huge, but also because one, no world buffs. Two, the bosses are really hard. People are gonna need to flask most likely.
Yeah.
Like the meta is probably gonna move over to asking, because that extra health or that extra damage is probably going to make a enormous difference as these come out and people are struggling, because people are going to struggle. There were guilds that struggled with Molten Core the first time around, even if we didn't. This is like untouchable to those guilds with some of these changes. You'll need to flask.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, it should be pretty interesting though. But I think that's definitely a good move in the right direction. Now, the next adjustments are pretty cool. I'm gonna go one by one. Yell out if you want to talk about it. But so basically, they're introducing a lot of things early. Like for instance, the Dungeon Set 2, which is the point five tier gear. Like it's your dungeon gear that you were getting from Ubers and Elbers and all those different things. Like it's where you could upgrade those, and that usually didn't come out until AQ, which was just kind of silly at that
It was
point.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're changing the stuff that when it came out, what is the point of?
So, so that's gonna come out earlier, which is pretty cool. It changes like two or three of your five set to epics. It's it's pretty cool. But on top of that, um, they're opening Dire Maul day one. So Dire Maul is gonna be day one open. That's huge for gearing going into Molten Core, because we're talking about the hit ring from the end of Dire Maul North Tribute Run. We're talking about a lot of actually really lots of stuff for tanks too.
Some plate DPS gear, so you're not like, you might have some value as a warrior having that extra armor in these harder raids. I mean, maybe not at like the highest level, but you just have so many different gearing options with Dire Maul.
Yeah, it's huge. And then so with them, they're also going to change the drops in dungeons like BRD, Lower Blackrock Spire, Upper Blackrock Spire, to include the availability of items, librams, and totems that were available later. They're also going to increase drop rates of things such as Hand of Justice in Blackrock Depths, which if you spent the 87 or whatever kills that I did getting Hand of Justice, like it kind of sounds pretty cool.
Well, it's the same stuff that came later, where Hand of Justice is going to move to Emperor right away.
I don't know if that's
No, it
the
is. It
case.
says changes made in patch 1.1 with adjusted drop locations and drop rate. It's definitely, this is implementing the final
locations.
stage.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
this is implementing the final stage of gearing that's out at the end of Classic. You're going to be able to do it the whole time. So your dungeon set, the different gear that comes out later, like the Librams, the Dire Maul gear. I think they're just launching all the gear that's possible, other than the raid gear, all right away. I think they're just not going to have any like phase changes of gear like they did.
And I think that's actually that's cool. Like
It's smart, because like come on. Like it was
Yeah.
weird having gear. Like they were talking about not having gear changes by leaving like Savage Gladiator really overpowered and stuff like that. But then they still made gear changes anyway. Like we still went through phase locked gear. Like the Librams and totems were phase locked. The Dire Maul stuff is phase locked. And yeah, like the dungeon set, it was ridiculous how late it came out. It became worthless content just to kind of be interesting.
Yeah, and they're also going to change reputation vendors that have item drops in patches 1.6 through 1.11. They'll be placed at the launch of Season of Mastery, with a few exceptions. One of them being like the ZG stuff from Zandaliri tribe, and then also like the Titanic leggings and Sage blade will still be available in later patch, which is good because Titanic leggings at the start.
Yeah, I mean, insane.
I mean, it's still like the onslaught girdle being available at the start. Like that's still pretty like OP.
At least it's off an incredibly hard boss now. You have to earn it really crazily.
Another thing that's interesting to me is to facilitate the completion of your Dungeon Set 2, the quest lines that launch the season of Mastery. Basically, they're gonna turn on the Twilight Hammer camps in Silithus, that can be used to summon the elemental Templars and Dukes. And when I read this, like, I thought to myself, with the accelerated rate, why don't they just open up the war effort right off the bat so that people can be like, so that a server can have it done before it even launches, and then the gates launch that day? What do you think
They
about
might have
that?
some I mean, they might have some other plans for AQ. If I had to take a guess, maybe they haven't this seems like a really rushed job. Like, I like all the boss changes, but as far as how quickly this is coming out, it would surprise me if they have really even thought about,
Right.
like, BWL, AQ, Nax. They're
No.
probably like, "We gotta just, like, launch this, and then we'll figure out as people are doing RAG, we'll figure out what we're doing with, like, the war effort and stuff."
Which is
That's my
scary.
feeling.
I
Yeah,
think
but
they're trying to see how much interest there is, right? Like
yeah.
if 20 people play, they're not going to put a ton of effort into figuring out the war
I think
effort.
it's gonna be big. Like, I think it's
Okay,
I
gonna be
think
yes,
really big.
I agree. I think it might be big, but at the same time, they're not going to put all their like money into developing this content if it's not big.
yeah, it feels like they were like, "Make it and ship it." Like, "Let's see what happens. Make it and ship it."
Yeah.
I mean, they're putting the real effort in, I think. Like, these are all good changes, and the whether did the bosses are good changes, but it definitely is like, "It's coming out already?" Like, ah,
That's nuts to
Dude,
me,
and then,
but
like, even on top of that, the level 50 class quests that give you the different trinkets will be launched at the start of Season of Mastery. So, level 50, you can go ahead and get your class trinkets. Warsong Gulch, Arathi Basin, and Altric Valley will be available from the start. That's freaking
good.
cool. And then the world PvP objectives in Eastern Plaguelands will be enabled at the start of Season of Mastery.
Finally, not enough people were talking about this.
oh
Like,
my
why did I
god.
have to wait for so long before I was allowed to PvP in Eastern Plaguelands?
Best change
Mm.
ever. Um, Now, unfortunately, unfortunately for a lot of people that like the meme specs, and they're meme specs in vanilla. They're not in later expansions, but they are, like, we're talking about your Ret Paladin, your Boomkin, specs of that nature.
Smite
Even
spec, says Kim.
even your, Pally tank. Like, these are all meme specs, and they're not going to change that in Season of Mastery. So,
Okay, but do you think some of the changes they're making with the bosses might change that?
not really.
Like, do you not think that a AoE paladin tank? Oh, because there's
They don't
something they're missing.
exist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just don't really
Yeah, fair.
tank really
All right.
well. Like, the talent
I'm
change
not a
is what
tank,
really.
obviously.
But they do say that they did monitor molten core groups, and the groups that stacked warriors and rogues did not do as well on the whole as the raids that, you know, spaced out the different classes better. And I think there is a lot more, like, mechanics itself, like, actually is helping to make
It hurts
ranged and things
melee.
better. Yeah, it's basically the
Like,
mechanics they're doing are hurting melee.
they're getting TBC'd. More mechanics, the harder it is to play melee. Everything is a tank and spank in vanilla. You just sit there and hit them real hard.
Hmm.
Yep. And then the PvP honor system, like, you know what? I didn't even, like,
So the
look at
PvP honor
this.
system is just sped up. The only thing that's different is that normally it takes 12 weeks of being rank 14 to hit rank
It,
14. Now it'll take 6 weeks. And the crazy thing is that they say they're just speeding up to match the rest of the content unlocks, which means fundamentally there's no PvP honor system change going on here.
yeah, and
Fair.
and that's basically the same thing we covered last
Yeah.
week.
It's just interesting, like, I don't know, like, it's interesting. You would think that they would maybe do something more here with how, like, crazy everything else is going, but I guess they don't wanna necessarily make that gear available. That could be, like, a big balance shift that they don't wanna mess
Yeah.
with
I
too
mean,
much.
yeah, I mean, just think about the swords. Like, they
Yeah.
are literally, not replaceable until Nax. Like
Yeah, it's
that's
nuts.
nuts. So, and if they give those to the melee, maybe the melee do jump back up. I don't know. I just think that the PvP system could definitely see some work in later seasons of Mastery or later seasons. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much concludes the news. Do you think we have time to do a little? Yeah, I think we do. A little short
No,
discussion. I
no,
mean,
save it for next week.
how much do you
We have
have to
20.
say on it?
I don't know. We've got 21
Enough.
minutes
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
hard deadline.
yeah. Like go on to the add-on of the week.
Okay, let's move into the add-on of the week.
I'll read this one. So this time, wait, are we doing the one that got emailed in?
I think
I think the
so.
emailed one seems cool. All right, so we got another email that we strategically saved for the add-on of the week, which, by the way, deliver us content whenever you like. Feel free to let us know what add-ons you like to use.
Please.
But this add-on, hey, Bob, Melon, yep, love the show. Thank you so much for
Can
making it
we
every
talk
week.
about the order of that just real fast?
Yeah, best for last. Here's a quick little add-on. It's not game-changing like Weak Auras or TSM, but I am glad I downloaded it. It's called Mapline, and you can get it right on CurseForge, the premier spot to get your add-ons. He doesn't say that. I'm adding that. And all it does is put a line to show where your character is facing when you open the world map, so you always have a straight line pointing wherever you're going. Even more useful with flying mounts in TBC
That
for the
is
Horde.
fair.
It's so true. How
It
many
is.
times are you like, am I heading the right way? And you have to move to make sure, and you're like, oh, I'm not heading
You
the
like
right way.
turn
Or
and,
like when I'm trying to like go to TK while I'm like in the kitchen and I just want to like auto fly there. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
you
perfect, right
suddenly you're
there.
in the twisting nether. You're like, you're hitting
Yeah.
Mars. You're like, where am I?
Dude, I do that so often. I'm like, yeah, I'm straight line there, and then all of a sudden I'm in like way off, or yeah. That does sound very nice.
Yeah, it's such a simple add-on, but it's so good, and
It's one of those things
it's the
that
auto
you play.
run thing.
Yeah, like if you play with it on, you're gonna be like, this is just, I don't know why this isn't in the game. Like, what a stupid, like what a simple
Right, like,
little
why can't it tell me
quality
where I'm
of
going?
life.
Every
Yeah.
time I go to SSC, even if I'm not AFK, like flag, I'm always readjusting 4 times until I can see that big graphic.
Perfect. Yeah.
Like, and so I've like it literally will help with that. So thank you so much for sending in your add-on, because we definitely need more.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much. And I should add on that he does say for the horde at the end.
Less
For the
thanks, Ben.
horde.
I'm not gonna do it. I almost put energy into it. I'm not gonna do that.
We need a for the horde.
I don't.
Oh,
I feel
For
that
the
I rock
horde.
on a lot, but I can't like go to the other side.
I'm a gnome that like jumps ship, like the only gnome on the horde. For the horde.
Yeah, you're a horde trader. Like, well, I'm sure there's one or two. I don't know.
There's gotta be, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, there definitely are in BGs, because you just have to wear you just have to wear a mask there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I used to wearing masks. It's fine.
True.
Yeah, we
True.
wear a mask every time we talk to people. Okay, what kind of mask are you wearing today?
All right, guys, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. We love your emails. Like, the story was really good this last week. Send more to us. It's WCRpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to join our Discord, we've had a couple more people joining the Discord. That's mash.gg/Discord. And you can find all of our shows there. Make sure to like click the roles at the start so that you see our actual channel, because we've had a few people talking in general, and general is just all of the podcasts. So definitely make sure to choose the right role. That's mash.gg/Discord. How can you help the podcast? You can leave us ratings and reviews. You can do so on iTunes or you can do so on warcraftradio.com. You can also tell your friends, and that is one of the best ways. So thank you guys, everybody who does that. We really appreciate it. Ryan, where can we find you?
Hello, you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/CognitivePit or on Twitter at CognitivePit.
Nice. And Mel, thanks you for, staying the entire time. Where can we
You
find
are
you?
still welcome. You almost lost me during the classic era talk, but I
It's not
stayed.
classic
I stayed
era,
in
it's
it.
season of mastery.
That's how
Can you guys get your terms straight for Jeez
No,
Louise?
I can't. Either way, I'm not gonna play it. So, I mean, I appreciate it. I do. But
I think I am going to play the hardcore. Like, it just keeps looking more and more fun, and just with all the content creators doing it, it just sounds like a blast. Until I die, and then I'll be like, forget this
I
game.
have trouble like staying awake for our podcast, so I don't think I have time to play them. So
Fair.
not for me. But one game at a time. But you can find me on Twitter at Mel Overwatch, or please tag me. Or you can find me on Game at Melarina.
She's on the game, not in the game. She likes to be
Arielina.
on the game.
What's the hunter's name?
On Mel No Aim.
Nice. All right.
Oh.
That's good.
And you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. You can find me sometimes streaming on twitch.tv/BlazzinBob. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Anybody who is in the chat, stay tuned. In 15 minutes, there's going to be an Apex Legends tournament. You should definitely check it out. Our boys at Dropping Spicy are always having a good time, and if you're okay with profanity, you might like the show. Let's get out of here, guys.
Bye. You're muted, Mel. Say bye.
Bye.
See you next week, guys.
Mel, get out of bed.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Oh, man. All right.
I forgot, like, for a second, I forgot how to do a podcast. I almost just, like, disconnected from the Discord call. Like, all right, bye.
Bye.
All right, stream. We're not going to raid anybody because we want you guys to stick around for the Apex tournament. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks,